Hey, it's another Sunday afternoon. Another Maryland women's basketball game took place earlier today. Before this afternoon's game, the team announced that Leah Bartelma has suffered a torn ACL and will miss the remainder of the 2025-2026 season. She suffered that injury in Thursday's game. As for the game that took place a little earlier this afternoon, but after that announcement, obviously, the Princeton Tigers visited College Park today and pushed the ninth-ranked team in the country a little by using their experience and versatility before falling to the waves of Maryland pressure, 84-68. We saw the Terps overcome some adversity and struggles to win a tough game in what Brendan Freese said afterwards was a matchup between two top 25 teams. Maryland was led by Luchi Okinawa's 20 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal. Taylor Poffenbarger had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals. Freshman Addie Mack finished with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and a couple of steals in her first collegiate start. Madison St. Rose led Princeton with 20 points, 4 assists, and a steal. Also had 1 block. Olivia Hutchinson added 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals, while Fadima Tall added 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 steals. The Tigers used the big second quarter to take control of the game, fighting back against the quarter that Maryland had, Maryland won that opening quarter 26-10. The Tigers, on the other hand, locked in on defense, used their press a little bit. They won that period 20-8, holding Maryland to just 30% shooting from the floor. They also forced 8 Maryland turnovers during that stretch. The Terps would eventually get going in the third quarter, starting fast by relying on their defense. They did a better job of manning the press, but it was once again their defense that sparked them. Luchi Okinawa and Kayleen Smichael, who this is her second game back on a minutes restriction, they combined to score 14 of the team's 27 points in that third period. Luchi doing it in transition, just showing off her speed. Maryland got a stop. They were out. They got a deflection and turned into steal. She was gone. While Smichael did it by doing what she does best, playing at her own pace, getting downhill, using different angles or physicality to not only score, but get on the line. All 8 of her points in that period came from the charity stripe. Her ability to put pressure on teams in the half court was huge for Maryland, not only in that quarter, but also in the second half. I don't know if Maryland gets out of this game the way that they do without her. Not only was it how effective she was drawing the fouls, it was just when she was able to do so. Say Princeton hit a couple of shots, she would immediately quell their momentum by getting fouled. And she was just playing her game. Maryland fought off a few rallies from Princeton in that second half. Throughout the game, Hutchinson, Toll, and St. Rose kept their team in it. All 3 were impressive at different times. Mentioned those runs. They all played a different part in not only sparking those runs, but sometimes just manufacturing it themselves. I thought they did such a great job on the glass for being a much smaller team than Maryland. Their versatility, they just did a great job. None of them were afraid to do the dirty work. And Hutchinson, just athleticism. You saw it on both ends of the floor. Definitely played a role in why she was so effective in this one. They should definitely give the Ivy League some problems, and you see why they've been to the postseason several times as a group. Maryland moves to 5-0 in the season and 4-0 against Princeton all time. 3 of the 4 games were played at the Xfinity Center. Some notes from the presser, Kayleen Smichael. We focus on our depth. I think anybody on our team is able to play. Pushing pace was the main key and continuing to play our game. And that's where I mentioned earlier that Maryland just continued to come up with them in waves. And eventually they were able to wear Princeton down. Addie Mack thought she had this to say: we did a good job coming together when things got hard. Luchi Okinawa was asked about defense. Our philosophy comes down to one's willingness to defend. I think our mindset and wanting to defend shows how seriously we take it. And that'll tie into something I had in my notes later, just that becoming their calling card this early in the season. I can't wait to see what that looks like as Maryland gets more comfortable with each other, chemistry-wise on that end of the floor, and as they, integrate some of their veteran pieces back in. We see Smichael kind of going through her paces and getting comfortable at some point this year. McDaniel will be added back into the mix as well. Coach Freeze just sharing some things she had to say. after the game. Every game is going to call for a different lineup. We're trying to gain as much experience as we can from our bigs, but they're young. And we saw that to that point, we saw several lineups where they didn't have a big, so to speak, where we saw Mario Boyko on the floor at times, obviously Izzy, Ozzy, Mamadou. But just as many times we saw, because Princeton is so small and they thrive in the way that they play. You know, Brendan has the luxury because of this team's versatility of just going small, where you had, you know, technically your bigs were their guards and wings as well, in Garzon, Poffenberger. You have Lucci. You were able to throw Kendall Walker out there with Addy at times, just taking advantage of their depth. We knew having so many new players with our blend of young and old that we wanted to be intentional with our schedule. We're getting better every single day. We're stepping out on the court. We're getting better in practice, and we're getting better in games. Coach Freeze also had a great point mentioning that one of the reasons that you know, they have their schedule the way that they do is early in the year. They don't get as much practice time before conference play. Obviously, during conference play, you know, it's 1, maybe 2 games a week. Now, you know, they're fitting in 3 games a week. Before this contest, they only had a day of prep. So they're kind of getting, you know, trying to accelerate that process by way of playing in the games at this point. From the Princeton side of things, Madison St. Rose, I think we got away from our defense. She was talking about in the second half where things kind of started to turn. Coach Berube, we put on our press that we have to slow down their offense. So about that second quarter, we put that on so they didn't have 28 seconds to run their offense. And that was one of the things we did see in that second quarter. Maryland wasn't able to, you know, that little press really knocked them out of their rhythm of running their offense. And that comes from having, I just think, the inexperience in terms of the guard play, especially at the one. We struggled the gate, and they caught fire. Talk about that second half, and that was huge. I can't say that was our best defense in the second half. This was a great test, a great environment. It was a great challenge. I'm proud of my team for hanging in there. Again, it was a very impressive showing from Princeton. And again, I'm probably not going to get over what the job they did on the glass. Maryland's faced several teams in our conference. Princeton, I think, did the best job on the glass. Some takeaways that I had: Maryland's offense. The press affected Maryland for most of the game. Brendan mentioned after the game, at times she felt her group made the press seem bigger than it was. Turnovers is something they have to continue to work on. But one media member, I do not know her name, I apologize, but she did bring this up. She asked Brendan after the game how it felt to have, I think, 16 tonight was the least amount they've had thus far. And again, something they'll continue to work on. And I think that'll just come from, you know, on the court reps. Kayleen Spikel, they thought she was a great pressure release, for Maryland in that second half. Her ability, especially in the half court, her ability to get downhill and score, get to the line, it paid off huge in this game. I don't know where Maryland would have been without her. Their defense, just one of the benefits they have is the versatility of Maryland allowed them to match up with Princeton and kind of play small, even though their small is still having players with good size. Not being able to play and function without a traditional big is huge. And then even then, like the bigs that they have in Ozzy, Mamadou, and Boyko, they do move well for their size. Akana was the perfect player to have at the top of the press. She is so disruptive, hands always out, ready to mess something up. And then this is obviously the 5th game they've played, and that's just a routine takeaway, it's evergreen takeaway. I mean, she's just so disruptive. It's a coach's dream. That's what you want to have at the point of your press. If you were for any coach that installs a press, that's what you want. That's TJ to be that disruptive is huge. And then that end of the floor is truly their calling card. That's the biggest thing. 5 games in, 68 points. They still haven't given up 70 or 80, anything like that. Obviously, they're going to continue to get better at it. There's still moments where you see there's lapses, but their intent on that end is what I've been impressed with the most. As always, little freshman watch. Addie Mack's first start, though she played a fairly clean game. Kendall Walker gave them solid minutes as well. You got to keep an eye on those two because now with the unfortunate injury of Leah Bartelma, those two are going to have to step up. They came into the year with 3 freshman point guards. At this moment, you have 2. Coach Freeze also mentioned after the game that it's not going to be all on their shoulders because, in the way that they like to play, they share the ball, they move the ball. We've seen multiple times, Sailor, Garcon, whoever it may be, Schmeichel, we'll see get the ball off a rebound. They'll bring the ball up and, push it, initiate the offense, things of that nature. But just looking, I'm interested to see how these two continue to take advantage of their opportunities. And then lastly, I like the way they both hit the glass. Mac had 6, I think 4 in the first quarter. Ken only had 1, but it was impressive as hell. It was offensive rebound. She went over the top of a couple folks and snatched it. That's your point guard going to hit crash off of the glass like that at its highest point. She went to attack the rebound. So, again, just credit to them. They're 5-0. After today, they have another week where – just want to make sure I'm correct here. They got another week with 2 games, so it's one less game than the last couple weeks. But they'll be taking on Bethune-Cookman on Thursday, and then Sunday after another Sunday afternoon game, they'll be hosting George Mason. So we'll check in with you guys then.